Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for this news report today for Tuesday, February 26, 2013. I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com, and on YouTube my channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. Sorry for those that are usual listeners, and I get sick of hearing that, but it's for new listeners. So unless I have technical issues, which I usually have on a daily basis, I should have the links posted in YouTube's video description. French Communist Party says adieu to the hammer and sickle. So they are going to replace the communist symbol with a 5-pointed star. It says here of the European far left alliance to the horror of traditionalists. So they've dropped the hammer and sickle symbol, saying it isn't so relevant to the new generation of communists. So it goes on and it says that they're replacing the emblem of peasants and the proletariat with a 5-pointed star representing the European left, a loose alliance of far left parties, including France's Left Front. I don't know if you remember this article. Let's see when it was from. January 5th of this year. Poster featuring hammer and sickle removed from European Union headquarters. And it was what? It was a big star, right? But they were talking about what? Ooh, the hammer and sickle. But the new communist symbol is going to be a star. So it's just as worse, right? Yep. And this here was basically what? A poster that was placed at its headquarters in Brussels. TV license evader refused to pay because the BBC has covered up facts about 9/11 and claimed the tower fell 20 minutes before it did. So kind of an interesting story. He represented himself at the court in Sussex. So it goes on here, it says he was withholding the fee under Section 15 of Terrorism Act 2000. He says that it's an offense for someone to provide funds used for terrorism. So he didn't want to give money to an organization funding terrorism. I'm not really sure what the heck this means. So if you're from the UK, can you tell me? Because they keep talking about a license. He admitted owning a TV and watching it without a license. Was found guilty of using an unlicensed set. Given a 6-month conditional discharge and told to pay £200. Court orders whistling man to walk around more. He thinks his whistling is free speech, but local businesses disagreed. A Maine man charged with disorderly conduct for his loud whistling in downtown Portland has reached a deal with the city. He can whistle, but he can't linger in one spot. He's been cited by revenue collectors twice in the past month after businesses complained. He pleaded guilty last summer and reached a deal with the city in which he can keep whistling as long as he kept moving. Qatari poet, life sentence reduced to 15 years. A poet from Qatar sentenced to life in prison for inciting to overthrow the government and insulting Qatar's rulers has had his jail term cut. So this is interesting because you know, the United States and Mali and all that, we're all there fighting these brutal, over there in other places of the world, around the world, fighting against brutal dictatorships. And yet the same people that the US and the UK and them are working along with are these Gulf nation dictatorships, such as Qatar, the biggest one, funding weapons and that. UAE bars British scholar over his views on Bahrain. Again, Bahrain, another dictatorship, Kingdom of Bahrain. It's been clamping down. Protesters just died recently. The UAE says it has barred a British scholar from entering the country because of his views on the uprising against fellow Gulf rulers in Bahrain. 3 Tibetan monks self-immolate as anti-China protests continue despite heavy crackdown. This is from the 25th. This follows from the 20th of February that I didn't get a chance to cover. Tibetan teens set themselves on fire in western China. 2 Tibetan youths have burned themselves to death, western China, reports activists. So this says here 2 Tibetan monks in the early 20s set themselves on fire in protest. It says here they were basically celebrating the Tibetan New Year. A 3rd monk was taken to a hospital after setting himself alight in a separate incident. Self-immolations, these ones, bring the total reported since 2009 to 107. Then we have Marissa Mayer under fire. This is the CEO of Yahoo, as she brings baby to personal nursery that she built next to her office after telling Yahoo employees that they can no longer work from home. She built a nursery in her office so that she could bring her baby to work, which has angered some stay-at-home employees following her demand that all remote workers report back to the office. I wonder what would happen if my wife brought our kids a nanny to work and set them up in a cube next door, the husband of one remote working Yahoo employee asked in an interview. So, but you know, the elites and the powers that be just love this new structure. They just probably love this woman because she's just represents everything, which is work comes first, family and child, comes second and stuff like that. You know, many employees are upset because they don't have the money or clout to build their own nurseries at work. So they asked a poll: is she right to tell employees that they cannot work from home? I mean, is it morally, ethically right? I mean, I don't think so, but at the same time, if she's a CEO of the company, then she does have the right to do it. But I think the biggest thing is the double standard, which leads us into this article. John Kerry: in America, you have a right to be stupid, he says. So, pretty interesting comment he made in Berlin on Tuesday. So it goes on and says, people have sometimes wondered about why our Supreme Court allows one group or another to march in a parade, even though it's the most provocative thing in the world, and they carry signs that are an insult to one group or another. The reason is that freedom of speech. In America, you have the right to be stupid if you want to be, and if you have a right to be disconnected to somebody else if you want to be. As a country, as a society, we live and breathe the idea of religious freedom, religious tolerance, whatever the religion, political freedom, and political tolerance, whatever the point of view. Here's John Kerry's first gaffe as Secretary of State. John Kerry has suffered his first gaffe as the new U.S. Secretary of State, inventing the new nation of Kazakhstan. So it was an embarrassing slip of the tongue for the Skull and Bones member last week. Praised U.S. diplomats working to secure democratic institutions, setting up democratic institutions. What about Bahrain there, dude? What about Qatar? In the Central Asian country? Well, they have gold there, you know, which does not exist, so it says here. So he was actually, he said he was referring to Kyrgyzstan, that's the country I cover every once in a while, which he appeared to confuse with its resource-rich neighbor to the north, Kazakhstan, former territory of the Khazars, where most European Zionists are from. And Israel, I mean, that's what it is. Israel's a new Khazar. Supreme Court rejects lawsuit challenging warrantless surveillance. So you like this: unless you can prove you're being surveilled in a program the government keeps secret, you have no right to sue. So a 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court on Tuesday threw out a lawsuit challenging the U.S. government's warrantless surveillance powers on the grounds that plaintiffs do not have any standing. They're talking about the expansion in 2008 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, because they can't prove the law directly affects them. U.S. State Department funded BBC World Service jammed in China, so the West feigns indignation as China allegedly shuts down U.S. State Department funded BBC propaganda. So headlines across the Western corporate media read: BBC says extensive coordinated efforts to jam World Service frequencies in China. So it says BBC blocked in China just days after reporting on Chinese hackers. And BBC strongly condemns, I think, of the whole thing. I mean, it's always, there's just so much propaganda. It's so thick, it can make your head spin, especially if you're not keeping track of it. The whole thing about the cyber wars and China coming after and gonna attack our computers is all based off, you know, the Obama administration that want to pass a cyber security bill, which will actually clamp down on free speech and internet freedom, which is, you know, kind of ironic, right? And it's also ironic too because Eutelsat, the European Union, and that basically the Europeans have satellite companies, and they've basically shut down Iran's press TV and their Iran's media. So they've actually shut them down on numerous countries, actually 2 to 3 different countries now. So, and it says this is all before weaving a lofty narrative of repressive regimes trying to gag freedom of the press. In reality, BBC's World Service is directly funded by the U.S. State Department, and it is insidious propaganda immediately designed to politically subvert not only China, but Iran, Russia, and many other nations perceived by Wall Street and London as intolerable competition. This was in a March 2011 London Guardian article. It says in a report, the BBC World Service to sign funding deal with U.S. State Department. In other words, when I'm talking about blocked, basically translate to the U.S. State Department and other Western interest propaganda to create subversion like they do in Russia. NYPD murder is down because of our Facebook surveillance. So surveillance has made the murder rates go down. So last year was a record low for murders in New York City with only 414. Part of the reason they say is Facebook. So the NYPD monitored social media to hit teen gang members with conspiracy charges by watching sites for taunts and threats, then making mafia-style cases against them. The police commissioner told the Post, in each initiative, the team helps us monitor social media and we gather information we can use on these groups. So we know that it was created by funded or developed by the CIA and DARPA, and of course we know the CIA is working with the NYPD. So net providers began warning of illegal download. So this is kind of spooky. Internet users who illegally share music, movies, television shows online could soon receive warning notices from the nation's 5 major internet service providers called the Copyright Alert System, organized by the recording and film industry. Is being activated this week to target consumers using peer-to-peer software. So, under the system, complaints will prompt an internet service provider such as Verizon or AT&T to notify a customer whose internet address has been detected sharing files illegally. They get up to 6 opportunities to stop before the ISP will take more drastic steps, such as temporarily slowing their connection. Well, they already do that to me, right? Or no matter where I live. Or redirecting internet traffic until they acknowledge they received a notice, or review educational materials about copyright law. So again, beware of that. We have India's spies want data on every BlackBerry customer worldwide. So there's about 79 million BlackBerry subscribers worldwide, and India's government wants to hand its spy agency data on every one of them. So it says that the Indian government or authorities are complaining that they can only spy on communications sent between the estimated 1 million BlackBerry users in India. They want a list of all BlackBerry handsets across the globe. And remember, I was just talking about militarizing or weaponizing space with these satellites and lasers, and we were talking about Russia. Just after this recent meteor, they were talking about how they wanted money and cash to build it up. India launches 7 satellite rockets to watch for asteroids and record climate change. India fired off a rocket carrying 7 satellites developed by various countries into space on Monday, according to the BBC, included 1 asteroid watching satellite and another monitoring climate change on the Earth. I wonder if that means when they spray aerosols every day. Is that what they're monitoring? I know they are at some of them, because you can go on some of the websites of the Air Force and Navy, and they actually talk about how they monitor the aerosols. I mean, how else do you think that the Weather Channel and all these other, quote, meteorologists are able to predict the weather? I mean, how could they predict the weather if they're up there spraying and creating, basically modifying the weather? It says, don't hold your breath for spring as Britain's battle against plunging temperatures of -3. Forecasters warn we're in for a cold March. So it says that the Met Office says temperatures likely to be below average through March, and the whole country will feel a chill as flurries of snow drift in from Russia. It says here the UK was feeling the chill as parts of Britain faced temperatures colder than Moscow. And it goes on, due to officially start March 1st, spring could be on the back burner as the Met Office warns that next month will be colder than usual. So I'm just going to leave off here. I'm going to do 4, I might even do 5 videos today. But please join me in part 3. This is GGN, I'm Darko. Thank you.